Welcome to Rapture Recovery Big Book Step Study Program of Action. This is section 4, where we are going to hit Bill's story. So go ahead, pull your big book out, read Bill's story, go through it, grab a highlighter, get a pen, circle things, any relating points, write notes out in the side margins. What you're doing is you're doing work that you're going to be able to use when you go into the fellowship and you're sitting in a meeting and they are discussing Bill's story. You are going to have some experience, strength, and hope, some relating points. I'm building up your confidence to share literature-based shares in our fellowship. What we're doing here is we're still in step 1. There's a lot of step 1 material here because it's one of the most important steps. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. So here in Bill's story, we are going to see an example of an unmanageable life. We're also going to see how he is powerless over alcohol. We're also going to see how he recovers with this program laid out in the big book. Your step 1 is multifaceted because they have built your confidence up in the preface and the forewords. They've explained to you where the literature came from. They've explained to you where the fellowship came from. They're explaining to you that you're going to be working a program of action. They've explained to you that there are 12 steps, and they are giving you the literature with the doctor's opinion to build your confidence up that there is a disease that is called alcoholism, and there is a fellowship that, based on the big book, have come up with a pattern and a program of recovery. So what we're going to do with Bill's story, there are a lot of fun things you can do here that I've done with sponsees in the past. You can have a sponsee read Bill's story and have them try to find the 12 steps. There are a couple of steps that are duplicated in there, no big deal. There's no right or wrong answers, but it's almost like a search and find to see if you can find the 12 steps. It's also taking left brain information, which is something I'm reading, and by picking up a pencil and doing something, highlighting, circling, searching for something, you are activating your right brain, which creates that holistic connection with a point that will connect with you in your 24 hours. So here in Bill's story, we see that he's going through his drink inventory. Remember, we just did a drink inventory over in the doctor's opinion. You did your drink inventory, okay? So here's someone else kind of giving you a layout of what a drink inventory looks like. If you feel like you left something out, go back to the workbook page that has a drink inventory. You can always add things because we're using this workbook as a building block for each new activity that we're doing. So we see that he has a daily relationship with alcohol. Now, you may not have always had a daily relationship with alcohol. Alcoholism is progressive. It's baffling. It looks different. It has different heads. You don't have to drink every single day to be an alcoholic. I've been here for 6 years. I've worked with over 40 women. Alcoholism looks different for everyone. We're hitting the main point of the obsession of the mind to escape, no matter what this looks like and how it looks like. We also see here in Bill's story that alcohol started taking an important part of life. So when you look at your past drink inventory, you can probably see some spots where alcohol was more predominant in some parts of your life than others. If we did a true mental inventory there, you probably had a lot of different things going on in that part of your life that you needed to cope with. Then we see that he becomes a lone wolf. So again, alcoholism is progressive. I'm not saying that you became a lone wolf, but this is a place that a lot of us get to. So again, you may have reached this program before you hit this stage and celebrate that. That is a not yet. We say that a lot in the fellowship. They're all available to me, right? I can go have all these crazy experiences. I can get arrested. I can end up in jail. I can end up in detox. I can end up losing my kids. I can end up ruining my marriage. These are all available to me, but God is doing for me what I can't do for myself. He's bringing me in a program that will help me recover from alcoholism, but I'm going to apply the principles in all my affairs, and I'm going to have an amazing life that I never thought I could have. But again, Bill's drinking came to a point that was not accepted by the people around him, so he became a lone wolf. People became a pain in the butt to drink around. Now, in Bill's story, we talk about Ebby Thatcher. Anyone who knows me knows that I love Ebby Thatcher. There are so many reasons why I love this man. This man did die an alcoholic death, okay? And they're like, how can you like an alcoholic that died an alcoholic death? I like him because God used his program of recovery to start the program that this big book is derived on, right? So yes, Ebby Thatcher did not have the perfect recovery program. Ebby Thatcher was not a star student in his life, but what he did at certain points of his life are heavenly treasures that are with him up in heaven, right? Ebby Thatcher came to Bill, and he only had 2 months of sobriety, and he was already sharing the message. Now, not only did he just have 2 months of sobriety, he had worked the steps. Obviously, within 2 months, he had some sort of confidence in the work that he had done to actually share this with Bill. That is humongous, because that is not what our programs look like today at all, right? God is meeting us where we are, but there are people that are taking years upon years to get through step work, and they're not getting in service positions, and they're using time management and confidence as excuses not to do this. This book was totally founded on a man who did the Oxford steps, which are 6 steps, okay? And they're located back in the story. So if you want to do some work and look that up, where are the 6 steps of the Oxford group in the big book? Go look at those. So he worked a program in 2 months, and then he went to share the message, because that's the 6th step of the Oxford group. He's got to go share the message. All this happened within 2 months. So no matter how much time of sobriety you have, 2 days, it does not matter. God will use that 2-day program to help somebody else, right? We see him seeking out other alcoholics, right? So now we're in this fellowship where we don't really have to do a lot of seeking, do we? We can just go to a meeting and it's like, bam, here we are. But I ask you, can you seek? Can you go to those meetings and seek service opportunities? Can you go to those meetings and seek the newcomer? Can you do the hard work that nobody else is willing to do? You can if you have the confidence in your step work and the confidence from God. God will do for you what you cannot do for yourself. He will make you stand in a certain position for the perfect time for his purpose and not your purpose. Here's some action items that you can do here. We're talked about how Bill was a lone wolf, right? So you can take a friend's inventory, because if you go through Bill's story, he's having a journey of many different relationships. So I think that it's very important to be very aware. So we're doing some base work here. We're doing some step 1 base work, and we're getting real honest with ourselves about how our lives have become unmanageable. We can't really figure out how our lives are unmanageable if we don't look at the facts here. So if you look over to the right-hand side of this page, I just did these as an example. You can use whatever you want. You've got family, you've got friends, and you've got social contacts. So now I did this right when I came into sobriety. So if you've got a lot of time in sobriety, put your sobriety friends on here. There may be some people that are in sobriety that you want to work on relationships with. It can really be anybody. But in my family, you need to think of who is in your nuclear family. You know, I've got my mom, my dad, my husband, my 2 sisters, my kids, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. Then I went to my friends. Now, I could kind of group these together right when I came in. I had a whole group of mom friends that lived in my neighborhood. I had a whole group of mom friends that I was involved with at my church. Those were kind of my key people. Now, both of those groups were did have alcohol, was accepted in both of those groups. Of course, I'm manipulating my drinking way further than any of them, so it's not fair for me to blame any of my alcoholic journey on these people whatsoever, because I have learned to accept the fact that I have a disease and it's going to come out no matter who I'm around, where I am, and what I'm doing. So then you go down to your social contacts. This is very important. Who are you having social contact with? Like, I put new neighbors, people that I had transaction with, like moms at the kids' schools, a realtor. Just sit in this for a minute. Who do I have social contacts with right now? And do this inventory. The reason why I'm having you do this inventory is for the next action item. go back and look, what is the mode of connection, right? So what are you actually doing with these people? Because when you come into this program of recovery, they're going to tell you got to change your people, places, and things. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that you may have to do it in the very beginning because you cannot come in contact with a trigger. You've got the rest of your life to deal with that trigger. So in your 24 hours in the beginning, when you need to stay sober, it's okay to just kind of ignore certain relationships so you can focus on your sobriety because you'll be able to deal with them later, right? We're not that important and God is. You'd rather go to somebody with a transformed way of living than go to them after you've been in recovery for a hot minute, right? So anyway, I always just say, everybody, let's just calm down, but let's be honest with what is a mode of connection. Anyone on this right-hand side of this work page where the mode of connection is solely alcohol, those are people that you connected with. So all these amazing moments you had with them, all these amazing, honest, supportive moments you had, if you were alcoholically drinking, that was the mode of connection. So you're going to want to try to stay away from those in the beginning. Any of these people that are on the right-hand side, that there was like absolutely no alcohol involved in the connection at all. There is no reason to run from these people unless there's a glaring resentment, because a lot of times when people come into recovery, they just literally cut everybody out, even their kids, just everybody. They may have to do that for a short time, but we want our programs to be a good example of sober living. So just because I'm getting sober doesn't mean I can't be a mom anymore. I can be a mom and be in early sobriety. I can be a wife and be in early sobriety. I can be a daughter and be in early sobriety. I can be a sister in early sobriety, okay? So we got to make sure to not start creating more resentments here than we already have for a lack of acknowledging people who have supported us. So they're going to be people that have walked along our drinking and drugging journeys that have supported us. Now, there's no reason to cut these people out because they're going to support you whether you're in our fellowship or not. It's actually time to celebrate these relationships. And if you want to reach out to people that are not in the program in early sobriety, remember this. Remember this list and try to reach out to someone that the main mode of connection was not alcohol. So am I going to be able to operate outside of the fellowship, or is my whole life just in this fellowship? You can test yourself. Like, let me see if I can ask one of my kids' moms or my kids' friends' moms for coffee. Never had any alcoholic drinking with them whatsoever. Is this something I can do? Can I meet them at a Starbucks? Because our kids have played together probably 15 times, but we've never hung out before. I think my kid is going to keep being friends with this kid. So it's probably a good time for me to soberly invest in relationships. Like, that would be a good example there. If you're currently having anything going on in your life, like you're trying to sell your house. I mean, you can't just stop talking to your real estate agent because she's a trigger, because she may make you do hard things in order to sell your house. You're going to have to maneuver those relationships and be honest. Now, I've got a problem with alcohol, but alcohol was never present in the relationship between me and my real estate agent unless I showed up mood altered. Now I need to kind of be a better person, and so show up to that relationship sober. With the help of the fellowship and my sponsor, I'll be able to get through these things. So that's the main point here this week, is to really try to find some friends and outside people that alcohol was not a main connecting avenue. And it's also helping you realize that you don't have to lose everything, right? You have everything to gain here, but sometimes we get a little dramatic because drama is a drug, and we think, well, my whole life is over and now I'm in AA because I have to be. That's not necessarily the case. We're here for a program of recovery, right? That's going to roll over into all your relationships. The relationships that you're avoiding because alcohol was a main conduit of connection, we may have to deal with that later, but we may not, right? A living amends later on down the line for that person may be, I'm just going to be sober. That's it. I'm not going to participate. So that's exciting about Bill's story. We see God doing for us what we can't do for ourselves, because this is actually Bill's story of his faith walk. It's a story of God doing for him what he can't do from himself. We're seeing a lot of success points here from him walking his journey. We're getting a lot of spiritual moments. We're not condemning them, judging them, nothing. We're just sitting in acceptance that this is someone who has worked this program of recovery, and now he died a sober death. So that's really a success for someone who is a genuine alcoholic like myself. Now we're going to go over to the next page in the workbook, and this actually came from Bill Barefoot. Now, this is an adaptation of that. I'm not plagiarizing or anything of that nature, but in Bill Barefoot, he was an older gentleman who did a lot of research. If I could call someone a historian of this program, this is who I would call, right? Like, this guy has a big book step study that is probably just as many pages as a big book itself, and he pulls from all kinds of resources. Someone who is left brain, really likes theology, is really going to like this guy. Someone who is over on the right brain, who likes connectivity and activity, and let's talk about our feelings and let's not focus on facts, this probably isn't going to be your step study, okay? Not every step study is for everyone, but this was the one big takeaway I got from him, is I needed to understand in this step one that my life was unmanageable. I had a hard time with that. He also states that there's a lot of relapsing because people are not being honest with themselves about the manageability. They still think they can have a manageable life, and they really just have to come to that baseline of, my life is unmanageable at this point. If I mood alter, I make bad decisions, I have consequences that I have a hard time taking responsibility for because I'm unaware of my actions. That's a pretty good thought process there. But anyway, so this week, go ahead and spend some time and think about these 3 areas of your life right now, right today. Okay, so think of your physical makeup right now. I bet you're not physically exactly where you want to be. Now, when I came in here, I was 60 pounds overweight. I'm not really sure why. I really just can't tell you why. I don't know if it was the amount of alcohol I was drinking. Was I actually eating when I was drinking? Was I in a blackout and eating tons of sugar? Was I making bad nutritional choices? Well, I would say so. If your nutritional choice is straight wine, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I'm not really eating anything, but am I? I don't really honestly no, but I came in here, I was 60 pounds overweight. My physical, I was on some prescription drugs that I really had a desire to kind of try to wean off of and hit these issues from a holistic route, but I was on some prescription drugs that had some side effects as weight gain, anxiety, and depression. These are things that I did not want to be dealing with. Physically, I was dealing with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know where that came from. I'm not a doctor, but overall, I just did not feel good. When I look at my emotional states when I very first came in, and this is going to be a great reference point for when you look back at this. I was unsure of my marriage. I was unsure if I was going to be a good mother, and I was unsure of actually all of my friendships. So that's where I was emotionally. Financially, I was maxed out on all my credit cards. I had no type of budget. I had no consistency at all. And I had tried to get some jobs, but I could never hold a job, right? So where is God in that today? Here I am speaking to you 6 years later. I've lost every one of those 60 pounds. I am totally off of script drugs with outside assistance. So I'm not dealing with the side effects of the prescription drugs. I do not deal with irritable bowel syndrome anymore whatsoever. It is a miracle. I have no idea why this has happened. This is God doing for me what I can't do for myself. Now, I feel good. I wake up and I feel good. I feel like there's a purpose to my life. There's something we're going to do today. Emotional, my marriage is better than it's ever been in our entire life of sobriety. My mothering, I seek outside help, counsel. I share with people in the program. I've got young kids. I'm a struggle bus. I'm showing up to meetings in my pajamas. People are asking me to speak at meetings, but they're wanting me to send them a picture of what I'm going to wear because they're so scared I'm going to show up in my pajamas, But again, look at that. Somebody wants me to share my experience, strength, and hope, and they're not looking at me physically. They're looking at my program of action. They know that I've got something to say. So I'm sure of my friendships in recovery. I've got plenty of friendships outside of recovery. Such a blessing. I bawl my eyes out when I did this page of the workbook because of what I'm sharing with you now. Currently, today, I actually don't have a credit card balance at all. This is just over 6 years. I do operate on a budget, and I don't really tell you that I got a job. I do some health coaching on the side, which is a benefit. But I just feel like this kind of is my job, my recovery program. And over the past 6 years, like I shared with you, I've had some financial provisions come through. I've had a marriage stick together. So there are not all these financial burdens on me of apartments and car payments because I'm still married. My husband's career has rocketed to another dimension. He always makes a joke. He's like, Imogene, you're building our treasures in heaven while I'm building our treasures down here, and he sees the person I am. He sees the work I do. He sees the girls I work with. He sees the treatment facilities that I go into. He sees me speaking in front of hundreds of people. He walks in on me speaking on an international meeting with hundreds and hundreds of women listening to me. He encourages me in my journey of sobriety. So today, God has done for me what I can't do for myself, and just having me do this unmanageability chart to see how far I've come. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you guys. And I pray that there are many messages of success stories of people that do this unmanageability sheet and look back at it years later and reach out and share their experience, strength, and hope. Take this, put this in your big book. When you go to a meeting, a step 1 meeting, my life is unmanageable. You will have experience, strength, and hope, and you will remember how God delivered you in your entire life by just showing up to a recovery program. Thank you.